Ekta Kapoor posted a photo of this. And then a couple of these news websites just ran this story being, is this the genius marketing of Ekta Kapoor?
How much have you raised till now?
So we've raised about 1.5 million till this point in time.
What were your initial days like pre-Naagin Sauce?
And no plans to ever start a business, in fact.
Do you come from a business family?
Not so much, no. You know, like you don't want to have 19,000 sauces at home. You want to have like maybe 2, 3, 4 that solve all your problems. Yeah, I think Naagin solves that problem for a lot of people. It makes bad food good and good food great. If the chef is happy, the owner's happy, it's only because their customers are happy. And no one is better than your customer. The customer is the smartest person you'll ever have in your life.
There are decades when nothing happens, but there are weeks when decades happen. One tip to crack an investor meeting.
You need
Welcome to Level Up Podcast Season 2, where our purpose is to help India's youth become smarter and better individuals by sharing successful stories of founders. To help us achieve this purpose, please do subscribe to this channel and click on the notification bell below so that we can make more such videos and this video can reach maximum people. The man who has founded a startup with a very, very funky, very, if I have to put it in a different word, a weird name, which gets a lot of attention though. It's very, very good strategically and brand wise, but with a little bit weird name. Founder of Naagin Sauce. Welcome, Arjun, on the show Level Up. Thank you for coming here, my friend. And how are you doing today?
Thanks, Devansh. Doing great. And yeah, all of those things are true, and probably a few more less than polite things that some folks might have said. But yeah, no complaints. So far, so good.
Yeah, I think, yeah, of course, I think no complaints because it has caught the attention of people, and that's what you want to do while building a consumer brand specifically. Sure. That it catches everyone's attention, right? Whoever is listening to it, watching it, whether you're on the airport, whether you're on the station, whether you're on the radio, if you're listening to this name, which is Naagin Sauce, ये एक अलग सा मतलब पता चलता है ये क्या है तो एटलीस्ट दैट क्वेश्चन कम्स के ये बॉस क्या है क्या you're going to talk to people as you are saying that your people ask your parents that ये क्या कर रहा है तो नागिन तो everyone is doubtful ये क्या कर रहा है but
Yeah.
that doubt is also a good manner of creating that publicity. It's a good manner of creating a brand or a PR. So kudos to coming up with this name. I just heard the backstory of it that it was your partner's idea and what he saw
I'll
in the
give Mikhail
Bangladesh.
credit for this one.
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
also the blame and the credit.
Everything
all,
goes
all,
to
all his. No, but I mean, this is one of those things, right? They say like you're supposed to, if you hear something 23 times or 21 times is when you actually remember it. Like, I think the hope is that like,
Scientifically.
yeah, I think the hope is that Naagin, you probably need a few less than 23. So that's great because probably need less budgets then in that case. So that's probably a good thing.
Is that so?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think you'd need to be told 23 times that there's a sauce company called Naagin for you to remember it. That's probably a good thing. But yeah, initially it was, I wouldn't say it's a struggle, but there was definitely question marks where people were just like, is that real? Is that a real thing? What was really funny, and I don't think this comes up very often, was like right before we started, like right when we started, Ekta Kapoor posted a photo of this. And then a couple of these news websites just ran this story being, is this the genius marketing of Ekta Kapoor? Marketing her show Naagin with like a hot sauce. Like, this is so unique. And we're just like, but that's
हम
us.
भी है लाइन में हम भी है हमारा है भाई
Exactly. But at that point in time, and probably even now, as long as you're not doing anything dastardly, I'd probably say good. All publicity is probably good publicity.
Yeah, I think negative,
no
positive,
complaints.
both is good publicity
Maybe
for a
less
startup.
less negative
Less
and more
negative,
positive.
at least at the
For sure.
initial stage.
For sure.
Yeah, but it catches someone's eye. But kudos to building that, that brand name. I think it's wonderful. Even for me, when we first met and when I first heard about Naagin Sauce, I mean, I had not heard about that, to be honest, before that. But when I heard, I think it straight away, made a bell ring. ये क्या है ये मतलब है क्या and I went when I left the event I did some research on it अच्छा okay it is this all right I think then I read about, okay, Abhishek Bachchan has invested, which we'll come to also in this podcast. And you've raised, some round. You've reached a decent stage now. So yeah, I think nice to know. We're going to cover these kind of topics in this, podcast. But before we get into that business part of it, I want to know more about you. About your early days. What were your initial days like? Pre-Naagin Sauce, and I think you've run one, two other businesses, digital media also. So tell me about your childhood, how you started your career, where were you born and brought up. Talk to me about a little bit about those lines. सॉरी दोस्तों, 1 मिनट के लिए मैं आपको ब्रेक दूंगा बिकॉज आई वांट टू लेट यू नो अबाउट समथिंग वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग अबाउट दिस इंस्टीट्यूट where we have shot this video. This podcast video is powered by the International School of Finance and Economics, and collaboration with Naagin Khandwala College and an affiliation of University of Mumbai. ISFP proudly stands for being country's first fintech school, and it boasts of its flagship program B.Sc in Finance and Analytics. ISFE integrates core technology and finance skills to meet the rapidly evolving needs of today's industries. So, if you're a student aspiring finance as your career, then do check the link in the description. I'm sure you'll get some value from this course. Let's get back to the podcast.
So born in Indore, actually, in Madhya Pradesh, and brought up, but mostly in Bombay. And I was a good boy, like as you try to be in the early days. I mean, growing up, it was what, like doctor, businessman, engineer. That was usually the three given to you. So went with businessman, studied commerce for 4 years here, and then 4 years again in college in the US.
Okay.
And had the misfortune of graduating in the credit crisis. So the finance plans sort of had to be shelved a little bit, but I worked at Ernst & Young in the US for a bit, and BlackRock as well, before moving back to India in 2010. My friends were starting a marketing agency at the time, so I joined them. And yeah, that sort of like took me down like a completely different path, getting into, sort of like graphic design, video production, digital marketing, stuff that I just never imagined I'd be doing. But then over time, it's sort of just like, you pick it up by osmosis. And I think the things that I kind of really enjoyed was more of like the tangible sort of like numerical side of things. So whether it was e-commerce or heading in the direction of like, for a short period, we were doing CSR consulting. So I think the challenge of trying to put together like impact assessment matrices and stuff like that was really exciting. But yeah, like over the years, just sort of like got deeper into marketing through different, sort of like consulting gigs, or and then one of my other co-founders at Naagin, Kshitij, him and myself had started another agency. And so the idea was to sort of to get into like content IPs, and that sort of got him to speak to his old high school friend, Mikhail, about some content IPs that he wanted to work on. One was about this, a show based in the US on YouTube. It's really popular. It's called Hot Ones. The channel's called First We Feast. So we wanted to kind of like see if we could do like an Indian version of that. And then Mikhail, being from the food business, was like, okay, cool. Now that you've spoken to me about the content, let me talk to you about the food. And that was sort of like how that conversation came to me eventually, and say, hey, like, there might be an interesting opportunity here. And so it was, and that meeting turned out to be the Naagin meeting, and then never looked back from there. So it's just
When was this?
So this was in, say, mid 2018. And then we spent about a year just figuring things out. We had our other businesses that we were working on, so progress was slow. But it was quite meaningful. We were engaged with a couple of...
Just before you...
yeah.
Sorry to break you, but
Maybe.
just before you go ahead to the Naagin story,
Sure, yeah.
What were you studying in the US? What were your plans back then?
Finance and accounting, always. It's always been finance and accounting. I think the game plan was to do PE or VC or IB or fixed income currency commodities or something like that. And then, yeah, just...
So your interest was always in finance earlier?
Very much so.
Investment,
Very much
finance,
so.
etc.
And no plans to ever start a business. In fact, I had quite entrepreneurial-minded sort of like roommates in college. None of those sort of like sat with me. I was just like, nahi bhai, like I want to stick to the path, right? Like the path is you just kind of keep going up, and you at
But
least
life
you try
has
to...
a different path.
I think it's that there's that joke, right? It's like humans make plans and God laughs or something like that. But like, yeah, like I mean, I think the idea is like you have this agenda, you have this game plan, and then Next thing you know, it's been 15 years later and you've never done a single one of those things, but very meaningful in a completely different way. At this point in time, I can't imagine a version of that life now. Like I just see myself wanting to have like, a million experiences. And I think this one's one of the funnest. It's the closest thing I'll get to a
But tell me
passion
something.
project.
You studied abroad for 4 years. So did you work out there?
Yes. So I
Okay.
worked there for a couple as well. So I was out for 6. And I think that's where the love for hot sauce also came in.
Okay,
Because
from US.
yeah, because I had fairly bad college eating habits, like, bread, egg, cheese, and noodles, things like that. So the only thing that was really different was what hot sauce were you putting in your food. So I think I've just been in love with hot sauce for quite a while. And then so the opportunity to actually do it was something you just couldn't pass up. It was fantastic. Loved it. And the idea
And
of
that also
making
took around 7 years or 8 years
even
to
more, yeah,
come by to you also.
absolutely
That kind
right.
of an idea
Yeah,
in India.
absolutely.
So
And
that's like destiny that okay, you had thought about it once but never went for it. On your own. It just came by to you.
absolutely. I mean, it's the if Liverpool Football Club, if they're listening, they should definitely consider, reaching out at some point in time. But if they're not looking to hire me as a director of football anytime soon, which they're not, I think the closest thing to like a passion project would be anything to do with animals and hot sauce is is right up there. So this came up and it was too good an opportunity to pass up and hadn't done any form of product business before. But I think a
But
lot of
but
the
tell
same
me but
principles
tell me
apply.
something. But tell
Yeah.
me something. Uh, you studied in the US from 2005 to
4 to
9,
2008. Yeah.
2004 to
Yeah.
2008,
Yeah.
9 odd, right? So, and that time the crisis came, okay, the debt crisis, banking crisis, etc. Um, of course, your parents would have invested some kind of capital money into your studies, etc., right? Because of course you were not earning back then. Did you recover that, or did you thought of that money going bust, getting wasted? Because after you came back, you were not going to get into finance or even out there because the economy was so bad in US itself. You could not end up doing a job there. Did you recover that money, or did you, or is, of course, now uh, 10, 12 years later, I'm sure you would have recovered. But back then, those first 2 years would be a humongous pressure on you too. I'm assuming that okay, ये बच्चा तो आ गया वहाँ पे पढ़ के उधर जॉब तो है नहीं इधर आके भी कुछ एजेंसी चालू कर दी दोस्तों के साथ. What was the thing going on in your head, and in your parents' head? What was the conversation at that point in time?
That's such a great question. I haven't thought about this in a long, long time, but you're absolutely right. Like, I mean, so the family sort of like supported the whole go to college bit. It wasn't just us. And I think the idea is you always want to be responsible about like how you go about doing it. So you want to
Yeah, and
like
how you spend your father's money.
fair, right?
Yeah,
Like, I mean,
of
like,
course,
because
for anyone.
at the core of it, I mean, like, it's because this is stuff like they put years into piecing together, right?
Yeah,
And then
it's an
you can't,
investment for them.
yeah. So you sort of like, so some people are just like, okay, it's college time to have fun. And that's not untrue, but like, I think you can also go to class,
Correct.
and you can also do your assignments and also try and work hard. And I think like the Indian education system is actually, जितने भी गाली देते हो while you're here, when you get a new version of it abroad, you're just like, that was really good prep, for everything, like, that I'm doing now. Because I think you just get to learn so many things. So, like, your attitude and aptitude towards learning, rattoing entire books is like, that's what you're used to. And then the next thing you know is you're doing like these 3 week sort of like courses and then like small tests, and it comes easier. So I think some people tend to like ignore it completely. But if you take it even a little bit seriously, it's not the worst thing in the world. And honestly, like, I mean, it's not hard. It's not hard if you just apply yourself. Like, I actually, weirdly enough, I actually didn't learn anything new in accounting for 3 years. Indian accounting is just so good, like with the concepts, or maybe it's just that I did commerce for 4 years here, but like you actually didn't learn a whole lot new in the first couple of years till you get deep into your concentration or whatever. So that was actually really interesting. But I digressed a little bit. But yeah, there's a lot of pressure, like, because the idea is sort of like you'll go there, you'll work hard, and then you'll sort of like make your money back, and then you'll come back, and then maybe one day you decide to settle there, but like otherwise the intention is to come back to India. But if you think back to like back in 2008, there was a lot of like talk of India's the place to be. Like, like you can see what's going to come. It's going to be a place of
Was it? I'm
tremendous
not too
growth.
sure.
And
I was just in school,
fair enough.
probably. I was in 9th, 10th standard, so
Yeah.
I was not very much well aware.
But there was a lot of
But
this
okay.
happening. Yeah.
Okay.
And like I came back from college in 2005 in my first summer, and YouTube had just about become a thing. Like Google had just become a thing. Facebook was in its first year.
Yeah, Facebook had started.
Yeah,
First,
like
second year,
we used to be going to gigs in the US on like buying tickets on Ticketmaster, and you say, oh, someone needs to do this in India, and then next thing you know, Book My Show is here. You're looking at like an Etsy or an eBay or something over there, and then you come back and it's like, oh, Flipkart's over here. Guess what? Amazon made it over here. And it's just like everything that was awesome about the things that they were doing in the US, I think we started picking up, and like people have done such a phenomenal job that I think that gave people a lot of confidence that look, like, I mean, there's a world here that we can get into. And while it's not the Wild West, it's like the late 2000s, but like there's still tremendous opportunity because there's a billion ideas that no one's really sunk their teeth into. And I think that was really exciting for a lot of people. Again, that wasn't something that was in my mentality at all. But I've been lucky to have the types of friends that I've had, and they, very entrepreneurial minded, like wanting to do new things. And
so what happened with your parents when you came back?
oh, I mean, they were super supportive. Like, I mean, they knew that I wanted to do finance.
Was there
And
pressure on you that okay, you didn't have the job, or
I think I put more pressure on myself than they put on me. They were really like cool about it. That's not to say that they weren't
because
thinking all the
it
things.
was not your mistake that you had not done something intentionally कि अच्छा यार he did not earn income or he did not recover the investment
And with
income.
all due respect to all the CAs out there, tax consulting isn't as exciting as it sounds. I'm just saying, like, this is a personal opinion, but it's not as sexy as it sounds. So I think the idea was to find my way back into finance, and then I just sort of stumbled into the agency side of things, and things just never looked
In the
back from there.
agency, what were you doing? Were you actually doing the designing and video editing or that stuff, or you were more on the strategic part, onboarding new clients, doing marketing or sales?
So I think the way I used to say it is like there's the business and then there's the business of the business. So like the business would be like graphic design, digital marketing, video production. That clearly unqualified for those things. But the business of the business is something I was definitely like, um,
Intrigued by.
yeah, like not just entry, but like it came naturally to me. The idea of like processes and setting things up correctly, or like managing cash flows, or just like, just organizing things in a way. Because I think like, so I'm a big football fan. I'll try and explain this in football terms, even though I maybe shouldn't. But like,
No, please go ahead.
I think the idea is everyone just can't go play attack. Like if there's forwards, there's got to be some people doing that gada majduri at the back. Someone's got to be playing midfield and helping both sides, and that gives you the platform for the attackers to attack and win. So I think the idea was, well, if these people are playing offense, that's your business development and sales team, and these people are playing, sort of midfield. That's all your actual people doing all the work, right? Your graphic designers, your video production guys, and I think there's always a case to be made for at least one or two people just holding down the fort, because there's no point in scoring 2 goals if you're going to concede 3. So I think the idea was someone's got to keep an eye on it. And in the initial stage, that was something I did. And then as time went on, like, you kind of have like a set way of doing things, and you don't need to put as much time into it anymore. And that's when you start to get more involved in some of the more creative things on the campaign side, a little bit more on business development. But yeah, like it was good to kind of pick it up, and got really lucky in those first few years. Like, happened to work with some of the most
And I
talented
think that
people.
time digital marketing was picking up. I think it
There was
was
barely
the
digital marketing.
yeah,
People
there
used
was
to say
barely
social
anything. I
media
think, yeah.
marketing was like all they said at the time.
Yeah, and I think Instagram was
Yeah.
not there. Facebook had just started popping in India.
Absolutely.
Google I don't
Absolutely.
think was it was
It was
there,
pretty
but it
much
was
just Facebook
but it
and
was
Twitter.
yeah,
Yeah.
Facebook and Twitter was there, but Google was also there, but I think Google was not that.
Yeah, Google Plus was there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how many people even remember that,
Yeah,
but
it
Google
was
Plus
not
came and
that
went.
machine which it is
Not
today,
at all.
right? So
Yeah.
I think there was a very good time, I would say, to start also in a manner, but also a little bit challenging time because yeah, it was hard to convert the businesses or the clients that okay, you all think towards social media marketing. Bhai, ye bhi
Yeah,
kuch
half of
cheez
them
hai.
just thought it was some BS. That was
Yeah, it was
a
some
phase that
BS.
was going
Yeah,
to
yeah,
come and
yeah.
go. But I think you always had a few, like, forward-looking people, and a lot of credit to whoever kind of were those people at the time working at all the different brands and companies, because it takes a leap of faith to kind of do it. And I think sometimes as an agency person, like you're kind of like critical, but not in a fully fair way sometimes. I think the risk is to say, if the other person does not understand the business that I'm doing, how are they going to evaluate whether I'm doing it well or not? So you'd have a lot of those moments where you really put in your heart and soul and you did a great job, but they didn't know how to evaluate you. So like, okay, this is not happening. This is not working out for me. So I think the industry itself sort of took a positive turn in the sense where like brands started understanding what are the outcomes I want from it. It's not just sexy cheese hai abhi market mein to karna chahiye. Karna chahiye is fine, but to what
Yeah,
end?
return on
Right.
investment kya hai, and what are the
Exactly.
metrics one must see as a
Exactly.
business owner with the digital marketing or social media marketing
Absolutely.
that you are doing.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
that's something that's obviously evolved a lot over time. And now, having been on the brand side, I think it's safe to say I appreciate a few things that I did not appreciate being on the receiving end back then. But yeah, I mean, everyone's got to focus on what's important to them. And I think the principles don't change. If you made your marketing manager on the opposite end, or the brand owner on the opposite end happy with sort of like what you were doing, that was actually you doing great work then, right? So and it's very similar right now. Like even now when we're working with like a restaurant partner, like if the chef is happy, the owner's happy, it's only because their customers are happy, and if their customers are happy, that means I've done my job. Right. So I think the idea is not so much like solve your problems, but solve the problems of the person you're working with. And then that's actually where you create value.
Hmm. Do you come from a business family?
Not so much, no.
So father has been into a job or a
Yeah.
working class. Okay, got it. In Indore.
No. So we are all based in Bombay. So my dad's actually from UP. My mom was Punjabi, but grew up in Bengal. My brother was born in Bombay. I was born in Madhya Pradesh. It's like a
Oh,
full
okay.
cocktail. But we all like pretty much spent our time in Bombay and like grew up here. I was in Mau, which is like a small town outside of Indore, like every summer because my grandma used to stay there. But yeah, so like different experiences, but for the most part, very much like a Bombay boy, I guess. Like that was, yeah.
I think that also, this kind of cultural experiences, different regional experiences that one has in their growing up years. Why I asked also about this is because, today that probably culminates into the kind of work that you are doing, which is food. And food is something, and you're into hot sauce, so you have to cater to different taste, different cuisines, culturally different people, regionally different people, right? You'll have to create sauce. Maybe today you don't have all the regional taste sauce, but of course your goal would be to do that. And I think that experience of growing up, or being connected to so many different cities or places, that would probably bring a lot of value add to your product at the end of the day whenever
Absolutely.
you do that. Is
Could
that
not
right
agree.
to say that?
100%. Could not agree more. And um, I think like it's important to understand sometimes just how big the world is. And I'll be honest, like I don't think I truly appreciated it. Um, like Bombay itself is massive. There's like 25 odd million people, maybe even more, if I'm not mistaken. And that's like the population or more than the population of entire countries. So when you start looking at like Maharashtra separately or like Madhya Pradesh separately, Punjab
Yeah, we are
separately, like,
separate
it's just like
countries.
we're like so many different people and at the core of it, but people are the same. It's just the things they do and how they channel their time and their preferences is different
The tastes and
culturally.
preferences are a little
Yeah, but
different
but some
culturally.
but the things that make people are all the same. You want to be loved, you want to be appreciated, you want to be, like you want to get a little bit of attention is always nice, but like never to the point of, like
You
the
want
people are the
money.
same.
You
Like
want money.
money would be nice to, buy a few things because we don't live in the barter system anymore. But like, yeah, like I mean, at the core of it, people are very similar sometimes. It's just that how that manifests in their individual lives is very different, particularly in a country like India.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Interesting. How did you three? So you all are three co-founders,
that's
right?
right. Yeah.
I think you said that your friend made you connect to the third co-founder.
Yeah.
What's his name? I forgot.
So Mikhail,
Mikhail.
Kshitij, and myself. So Kshitij and Mikhail actually went to high school together. Kshitij and me were running an agency together, and my first agency did the branding work for Mikhail's pizza company way back in the day as well. So funny little serendipitous connections all the way through, and that's just
But I feel that this is what matters when you're when you start building something as a business. all your past relationships comes into the picture. Because somewhere what you've developed would come in handy today. I probably even with investors or even with for co-founders or clients, customers, whoever, vendors, somewhere or the other you would have met them earlier. It would not, without that, it's very difficult to probably kickstart something. And I think someone or the other always comes into the picture from your past who's going to come and support you or help you out. Is that true also in your case?
100%. I mean, at the start, at least, the biggest evangelists or the biggest supporters you have at the start of any new thing that you're doing is all your friends and well-wishers. And I think that showed from, when we launched, sort of like who were our first 100 or first 500 customers were all people that knew us, or people that knew people who knew us. And that sort of like gets the ball rolling. And then over time you can kind of like, use all the business, tactics and, sort of things that you have available to you. But getting that early traction is really important. Getting those good vibes are really important. One of the best things we could have ever done was actually, we did a beer festival 3-4 months prior to launching, where we just met customers, like, and not just like people who, sometimes you give a trial to someone, but they're like your friend, so you're not sure if they didn't tell you it sucks
Yeah.
because they're your
Yeah, they might
friend.
not give you the honest
Yeah,
feedback.
which is the only reason, the only thing you really want from them. So it was really good to get those sort of like first real customer interactions, because that then you start realizing, okay, cool, there's a few shortcomings in what we've got going here. Maybe there's a few tweaks we can make there. And no one is better than your customer. The customer is the smartest person you'll ever have in your life.
And they're very
And
smart
they're,
today. They're very
and
smart.
they are shockingly innovative. Like some of the use cases of the product, like if I lived 3 lifetimes, I would never choose those combinations. And some of the stuff they shared with you, it's just like, this person's got to be batshit crazy, right? And you try it out and you're like, oh my God, that is awesome. So I think what I've
Can you
learned
give
from,
an example?
yeah, buddy of mine actually, he said like a pinch of salt and pepper and ghee and the Naagin original with bhutta. And I was just like, in my third janam, I would never understand. Like, I never choose to do something like that. But then I tried it and I was just like, holy moly, that is actually epic. So it's just one of those things. Like, I was on the Maggie, burgers, sandwiches, like cheese toast, pakoras, all the home snacks,
उसमें डाल सकते हैं.
pizza, and all this other fun stuff that, like, my regular snacking sort of side of the things. And then some of these things come up with people. Some people are using it in phenomenal ways. Like, then the pandemic comes
But ये
in.
कहाँ पे भी mix कर सकते हैं ना. At the end of the day, it's a
Yeah.
sauce. Maybe the way you had planned it or envisioned it was, just these 7-8
And it
items
was also
or
very
use case.
different pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a great chef, you know. And I think everyone needed to fend for themselves for those first few months of the pandemic. And I don't know my way around like that masala dabba at home, right? Like, but we're at home and like, what do you do? And then I think the idea was like, okay, just a little bit of rice, some sausages, and then put some of the hot sauce, like sausage rice, like spicy sausage rice, like. And you can just easily come up with things like when you've got like cheat codes, and that's what Naagin represented to me in my personal life.
Correct.
Also dating back to what my first hot sauce experiences were, which is just you made something. It's not epic, but you can make bad food good and good food great in 10 seconds or less when you've got the right hot sauce. And I'd like to believe we now have four.
Now
So
you have the right product market fit
yeah,
also.
yeah.
The right product also and the market fit also.
Long may it continue. Yeah.
And that brings me to a very interesting quote I had read recently, which is probably it resonates with your story. Correct me if I'm wrong. Which goes like this: there are decades when nothing happens, but there are weeks when decades happen.
Yeah.
So, if I'm not wrong, it applies to you in some manner, because I think you all have started Naagin, what, 6 years, 7 years
Now
now?
about 6-ish years ago.
Six
Yeah.
to 7 years
Yeah.
odd. And today, I feel probably last 5 years was a huge grind for you guys, where probably, y'all were also figuring out the way, y'all were figuring out, probably iterating, reiterating, finding that right target audience, the right product mix, etc.
Yep.
is what I could understand from my research. But now I feel that you all have reached that stage from where the L curve, or sorry, the J curve can come in. There's a lot of this, and now it can happen where that few weeks में decades हो सकता है वैसा. Is that right for you guys?
100%. Like I think the version of this that I've heard is it took me 10 years to become an overnight success, right? Like, and I think
For
that's like,
Messi, you
and that's
must have seen for
and that,
Messi.
that it could be it, right? Like, but that's exactly it. Is like sometimes you keep doing the same things often enough, but then one moment comes and then suddenly it's like, oh yeah, that's who you are. But like, oh, but that's who you've always been. And I think that's but people found out at that point in time. So we had that moment when the main man himself, Mr. Amitabh Bachchan, had posted on Instagram once, and I think that was a crazy day because I found out at 10 something, 11 p.m. at night, and needless to say, we were up till the wee hours of the morning trying to figure out like what can we do about like trying to capitalize on this. We ran out of stock every day for 3-4 days in a row on
After
on
that
Amazon
post.
and our website. Yeah,
After that post.
yeah. And I think the idea was just like when people talk about influencers, like that is a real influencer, like
You can't get
the
bigger
most
than
influential of
you can't get
influencers,
bigger
perhaps.
than that.
Yeah. But I think the other thing was just sort of like people trying it and then being like, oh, that's actually really cool, and be like, it is actually really cool, but it's like, but you needed a reason to try it,
And he
and
became
that
that
was the
post.
and for a lot of people that was that
So he
reason
had
that day.
tried the product, or he had ordered it or
Yeah, so
something.
it had made its way over to their house, and
So he
Abhishek
was he
Bachchan
was a
had also
regular he
tried
was a
it.
regular customer.
That is information I don't know, but I know the products made its way to their house, and then they tried it, and then they said, "Look, like that's actually really cool," and it just sort of
Wow,
like
and
came
he
up
he just did it
spontaneously, and
on his own without you guys asking for a favor, because you all didn't know also. Okay, ये
I
उनके
mean,
घर
I'd
पे जा.
love to be chatting with him on WhatsApp every day, but no, we
Hey,
were not
wow.
aware of any of this, and it was
And
fun.
this is
Yeah.
like a like that that moment where I think you get chills. I mean, you can get goosebumps. I'm like, ये क्या हो गया?
Yeah, and it's so
अचानक से क्या हो
and you
गया?
never know. Like it's so funny. I just ran into someone the other day, earlier this week, and they're like, "Oh, you guys, you're the Naagin person." I was just like, "Well, I'm one of them." Like, and what's that? He's like, "I have the weirdest story for you." I was like, "Okay, let's hear this." And so this is actually just 3 days old. I've just heard this.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this guy's been in Scotland. He was staying with his friends, and they were all like going on like a boys' trip or something. And they were just trying to figure out munchies for the night. And then at that point in time, late at night, they're like, "Ah, man, this is so like these people don't get flavor like we do in India and all. Like, I mean, these guys pretty bland stuff."
Yeah, bland stuff.
And then one person is just like, "Man, you should just. It's not like you're gonna get Naagin over there." It's just like, "What do you mean? It's not like what is that? What? Say that again." And then it's just like it's not like you're gonna get Naagin over there. So what are you talking about? What Naagin? And then this guy's like did not believe it was a real product, had to Google it, found out that it was in fact a real product and that we're not making it up. And that the whole website is not, like a complete joke. And yeah, like, I mean, random person from India that he was chatting with at like 3 in the morning from Scotland, who I'm assuming had just woken up over here, told him, just made that random comment. And then he found out about this. And then he's been like a customer since. And it's just one of those things. It's like you don't know who is going to say what when or like what connection comes through. Like some people follow like the discovery through ads sort of like buying system. Some people are I have this need, so then they go search for it. Other people need to have the word of mouth. So like you've got to kind of be playing all those games. And to connect it back to one of the things you said earlier is a lot of the things that you did earlier in life like do sort of count, like so having good relationships with people and just sort of like nice folks in your corner wanting the best for you goes a long way, because sometimes you just have friends being like, hey, like I got someone over to my house and I just made him try it and it was like whatever. So it's little things like that, like it's just like mini evangelists that come up, and it's all your well wishers, and there's almost nothing you can do on a day-to-day basis to say thank you for all the amazing things that people have done in your journey. Like, there's no way you get to anywhere without a million people helping you.
How do you all say thank you to your customer as a
Um,
product brand?
well, I guess there's different ways. Like sometimes you'll sort of like promote a a testimonial which is as much exciting for us, like, which more exciting for us maybe, but sort of like giving them some love every now and then. We'll call them and give them feedback, or if we're developing new flavors, we'll sometimes share it with them and say, would you like to give us some feedback since you're, one of our regular sort of customers? What do you think? And, sort of factor their thoughts into it as well. Every now and then we've sent out like t-shirts or something like that. And it's just really, I don't know. I'll speak for myself. Like maybe I'm just a very simple person to please, but cheap thrills is good sometimes. Like I don't expect people to like move heaven and earth for me because I'm a customer. Um,
But
but when
that's
they,
small.
but when
That's
they,
small gesture.
yeah, sometimes it's just they send stickers, or you get that message. I know this is all automated now and it's relatively easier to do, but you get that message that's just like, oh hey, happy birthday or something. It's just like a little touch, right? Like you may not even want it, but like it's the little things. I think people
It
truly
makes the
appreciate little
customer
things.
feel a little special.
Handwritten notes go a long way. It feels more personal because it is more personal. And yeah, I think at the core of it is just you want people to know that you care as much as they do. And I know this sounds like a little bit of a shameless thing to say, but like if I really wanted to make a hot sauce that I wanted to make, there's no need to start a whole business around it. Like you could watch enough YouTube videos to try and make
Make
one,
it in your
or you
kitchen.
can like if you're super motivated, maybe hire a chef to make the recipe, which then you take in now for the rest of my life. And why would you make a whole business out of it? It's because you want people to enjoy it, right? Like you want people to have the same love and
Yeah, yeah, of
experiences
course.
for food that you do. And I'm yet to meet that person in my life who said, I don't want better tasting food. Like I'm yet to meet that person in my life. So I figured that that person exists everywhere. And, well, the opposite of that person exists everywhere, I guess. And yeah, just let's try and make
Yeah,
something
so
for
you
them.
you mentioned about that every person is little different. Some people want to be approached by an ad. Some people are going to come word of mouth. Some through referrals. Some through a need based kind of a inquiry, right? Which brings me to a very interesting topic, which is on this market of hot sauce in India,
Yeah.
right? I'm sure you would have tried to uh, pull down numbers for your investor meets. TAM क्या है, ये क्या है, वो क्या है. We'll not get into that, but I want to understand, actually about this hot sauce market, right? Because to be honest, I have not done any of the research on this kind of a market, but how do you create that kind of a narrative? Who is your target audience? How do you cater to them? How do you approach them?
Great question. So we kind of look at it on like two, three, four, maybe different levels. At the lowest level, it's you're eating food and you want to pair it with something. Like India's a big condiment country. Like I won't deviate too much, but like your favorite idli place is not the place that makes the best idli. It's the place that has the best chutney sambar, right? Like actually, like or
Uh,
the your favorite sandwich guy is the guy has the best chutney, right? So a lot of what we end up picking like with Indian cuisines, and this is I
Other
believe
ciders.
across, yeah, like why do you pick that pani puri guy and not that pani puri because the pani is better? Why do you pick that momo guy and not that momo because the sauce is better, right? Like so it's part of who we are as a country. And at the core of it, I think what people need is a great accompaniment. Once upon a time, people did a lot of ketchup, and then घर पे fresh chutney बनता था. Or once in a depending on the family you have, and or like the food that you eat, like there'd be different types of pickles that you might have had. So we looked at hot sauce as sort of like, in a sense, you could say that it's a replacement for all three. Or you could break it down and say, no, but ketchup is ketchup, chutney is chutney, achar is achar, and then hot sauce is hot sauce, right? Like, so it's different strokes for different folks and how they want to break it down. I personally look at them as very different things, and there's certain things that like I only want that one pairing, but in other moments like you're happy to explore, and you don't, and like, and I think hot sauce has a epic use case in the sense that it's super versatile.
In India, when did this? So in India, if I were to break it down, is the hot sauce market more, applicable in the metro cities, or is it even in tier one, tier two kind of cities like let's say Surat, let's say Bhopal, let's say Jodhpur or something like that? Is it even applicable there? Are people consuming hot sauce in general? I'm not talking about Nagin, but in general about the market. I want to understand little deeper, or is it more metro city audience that consumes this?
The version of like a high-end hot sauce, maybe you'll find that a little bit more in metros.
For example,
So for example, if someone is used to having a sriracha prior to, hopefully prior to Nagin's existence, but like sriracha or a Tabasco or a Cholula or a Nando's, like you don't get a lot of this, or at least you didn't used to get a lot of this like back in the day, in a whole lot of like, smaller tier two towns or something like that, tier two, tier three towns. So I suppose in that sense, you could say that it was more in the tier one cities. But people have been having chili sauce everywhere. Like, like earlier they used to just be green chili sauce, red chili sauce. Those 30 rupee bottles that you buy, you keep it in your fridge. One day you decide to use it, you pick up the bottle, you realize it expired 4 months ago, you throw it in the trash. Within 24 months, within 24 hours, a new one is already in your fridge because
वो खाना
sasta
है.
hai and rakhna chahiye ghar mein. But who actually loved those, who actually enjoyed those? And my personal criticism is the flavors defined by a color. Like, come on, man. Like, it can't be red chili, green chili. Like, give me a flavor. Like, give me what chili are we talking about? Like, I think one of the things that we took really emotionally into heart, when we started was people know habaneros, harissas, peri peris, chipotles, jalapenos, but why do we not know all of our amazing Indian chilies? Like, I mean, Indian chilies are maybe fine. You
Yeah,
can
no, I think that's
like
a
we have
very valid
Lavangi, we have
point.
Sankeshwari, we have Guntur, we have Byadgi. Like I mean, it's not just because everyone from every part of the country knows those three or four that are local to
Yeah,
them.
peri peri,
And
Szechuan.
we have our own peri peri,
Yeah.
which is called Kantari. That goes in the Kanta bomb. Like a peri peri is just a bird's eye chili. So the African bird's eye chili is peri peri. Thai bird's eye chili people find in supermarkets, but Indian bird's eye chili is very much the Kantari. So why haven't we made our chilies like branded, or like why have we not made them
So we so
cool
so
or
what you're
something?
trying to say is in India we don't have any brand that has become a hot sauce brand, like a dominant hot sauce brand.
I
We
think
might have some small regional players, but
absolutely. I think there were hot sauces from India, but I don't think there was an Indian hot sauce. Like people do Japanese precision or like German engineering or like Tennessee whiskey or like, Louisiana hot sauce. Like people have certain things, like you pair it with certain words. Like I don't think Indian hot sauce meant anything to anyone. Right? So I think there were hot sauces from India, but I don't think there was an Indian hot sauce. Even the folks here were trying to
when you
make a
say
jalapeno version.
when you say Indian hot sauce, you mean with
Yeah.
Indian chilies, the recipe with
And
Indian chilies.
something that should just be, like Indian ingenuity is like jugaad, and that means something, deeper than just the word of, oh, I have, like I'm able to
Yeah,
find
so with
solutions.
the
Like
ingredients that you're using, they have to be Indian in
it
nature.
should be, and it should have an intrinsic quality that is innately Indian. Like Tabasco is just pepper, vinegar, and water. That's not a very complex flavor. I mean, it is what it is, and there's a place for everything in the world, I suppose. But like, it's not a very complex flavor. So, what is an Indian hot sauce is something that is complex yet simple at the same time, because even our foods have so many different spices. So either you need something that contrasts completely so that it stands out, or is similarly complex that it just makes that little potpourri even more exciting. So we went with the latter option. And I think that's sort of like what our Indian palates are used to. So what we wanted to make was an Indian, a unique Indian flavor that was, that's also sort of global friendly. So it works as well with Western cuisines as Asian cuisines, Indian cuisines, and how many different types of cuisines we have. So I think it's super versatile from that sense. I think what we loved about it is, unlike like ghar ka chutney, like which expires in what 3-4 days, this one will give you 18 months of shelf life. It's more versatile than a pickle. Like you can't just put achar in like a pizza or something like that, So, and ketchup is just sweet. Honestly, like we used to joke about how ketchup is for kids, but ketchup should not be for kids. It's horrible. Like I mean, there's a lot of high fructose corn syrup. Like I think majority of ketchups in India, if not, at least all the big ones, you'll find if you read the ingredients, there's 25.5% tomato is all you get in your tomato ketchup. So I mean, what's the rest of it? It sure as hell is not tomatoes. So I think the idea is, while we don't claim to be like a pure healthy brand,
Healthy brand,
we're
yeah.
definitely better for you than some of the other
Plus more
alternatives out
tastier,
there.
plus more
Versatile, convenient, shelf life, and I think all the other fun stuff, and the unique flavors that you're not quite used to. So I think the idea is if you want to explore food and you enjoy food, and it's not just means to an end, like my body needs fuel. Like I think people will try and new things and indulge, and I think that's where we fit the bill for people. It's sort of like yeah.
Who's your target audience?
Great question. So it's a mixed bag. I think some of the folks that found us early are people who have a strong affinity towards spicy food. So just spicy food lovers was one group. I think in terms of like
Is
stage
it
of
is it
life.
because also the sauces, your sauces are more on the spicier side?
Yeah, so for the first couple of years, we just had the two sauces, the original and the booth. So the only people that found us were people who were looking in like the hot sauce section, and it was the pandemic, and we weren't in too many stores at the time. So it was more like search based. So I think the idea was how do you expand outwards was and yeah, like so we wanted to expand use cases, we wanted to expand our product ranges. But yeah, people tried it. The spicy food lovers sort of found us first. I think there was a lot of college students and young professionals who are like not living at home. Like if you have that Maharaj coming home and making you like whatever everything, then you're whatever, you have a little more options. But if you don't have that system, you need options to, like you don't want to have 19,000 sauces at home. You want to have like maybe two, three, four that solve all your problems. And yeah, I think Naagin solves that problem for a lot of people. I think it's also one of those where, at least the way I rationalize it is, people. So this might sound a little shameless, but like I think one beer is a waste, but I think three beers is not, right? Like I mean, so but if you're willing to spend 600, 700 rupees on a night to enjoy for one night, you surely can spend X amount to enjoy food for a month, right? So that's the way we looked at it. It's sort of like a taste upgrade, and I think I kind of mentioned it before, but like I truly look at it this way: is it makes bad food good and good food great. And it really depends on what type of food we're talking about, what your resources are. Maybe you don't put a lot of your home budget into food because you're not, like you're a solo sort of act. In other cases, sort of like, parents will, get it, but then the kids will eat it. So your customer is one person, but your consumer is a little different. But I think a lot of folks just found us because of their pure sort of like exploration. And, I think that's one thing I love
Tell me
about.
some interesting story about any customer who has, you know, uh, let's say I want to give you two incidents, right? One incident being, where he's loved your product and he's told you about his experience. Share me that experience. And one incident where I would not say he's not liked the product, but he found it very spicy. It was a little funny story.
Yeah.
Where, of course, there would be some funny stories which was little weird for you, but it helped you understand, अच्छा ये भी है, ऐसा भी
Yeah.
हो सकता है.
Yeah.
Give me these two incidents.
So I think one of my favorite emails I ever got was this random uh, Yugoslavian guy who was like, that's what he said in the email. I mean, I know Yugoslavia is not Yugoslavia anymore, but like that's what he wrote in the email. And he said he was actually like from America, but he was in India for like a rotation of like 6 months or something. Um, and 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 he was just like, I've been finding it really hard to eat food here because I don't think I can understand Indian flavors. Like my palate is just not understanding Indian flavors. Like I try, and I think he wrote like a full essay, and he was talking about how like people kept telling him Imli is amazing, but like he just didn't understand tamarind as a flavor, and he's just like my brain can't handle it. Like my brain can't understand certain things, but so I've been looking for things that make sense to me. And yours was like the closest thing where I was just like, okay, that's Indian flavors, but in a format I can actually understand and apply in my life. And
Yeah,
I was
the
just
hot
like,
sauce.
yeah,
Because
and I was-
they're used to in probably.
yeah, exactly. But what was fascinating for me is who writes this much? Like, who writes a page? I've never written a page of feedback to people. That was the first time I ever saw it, and and that just stuck out
Wow.
because it was like complimentary and it was
Yeah, that
very
would be a
cool.
heart touching.
Yeah, it was excellent. And I think the second one that really stands out is this person who comes and he's telling me, he's like, so I like the product and I got it when you guys started because I came across and everything is cool. But now I'm not the person that asked for the product at home. And I was just like, what does that mean? I hope this is still a success story. And he's just like, no, but my kids were 3 and 4 and my kids can't have omelette or bhurji in the morning unless they have with Naagin. And I was just like, oh my God, that's like the nicest thing. That's the best thing I've ever heard. But that means clearly, even if they're in small pockets, that there's some people who are going to grow up with this flavor. Like my nani's like, aloo paratha is the greatest aloo paratha in the world, and I will not accept any other answer, right? Like, I mean, but that's what you grew up on. So like that specific flavor means something little
Yeah, if it
different
is
to you.
coming in the household since
Yeah,
they are 3
that
years
felt
old.
like home, right? Like
Yeah.
so, where for us that might have been ketchup growing up because we didn't have very many options. But now some of these kids are starting off with Naagin, and like that's like, super exciting. But you did ask for like a bad story also. So,
Maybe not a bad,
or
but
maybe
something funny incident.
oh no, funny incidents. There's like a million. I'll tell you the first one. Chalo, there's a couple of really fun ones. So we were going through the branding process and we said we'll just do like this really kadak snake on it. Like let's just own the Naagin and all. We put this snake
Oh.
on it, and like this really kadak, like big cobra like on it. And then we went and we just like we loved it. The folks we were working with, the agency loved it. Everyone loved it. And super talented guys. They did an excellent job. I love that snake. I still do. Like I still want to use it in some way or form. But we showed it to a couple of folks, and this one guy is like, तो ये तो like वो मच्छर मारने के लिए है, right? Like Mortine है. It's just like, oh my God, man! Like you got to be kidding me. Like I thought, granted, this was not necessarily your go-to product day to day, but like where did the Mortine thing come from? That's so intense. Like, and then we met. So we spoke to like a couple of these like really sweet sort of like Guju lady, Madu lady, and I love that. It's so honestly brutal the feedback, right? Like so honestly brutal. And she's just like, I like it. It's cool. Like the sauce is cool, but I don't want a snake staring at me on the table. And I was just like, that's so harsh.
Valuable. That's valuable.
But it was such good feedback. That's what I'm
It
saying.
was
It's
very
so
good.
brutal, but like epic because I had to just flush all my feelings of like, oh, but I love that. It's like, yeah, but what I love is less important than, I don't want to
Yeah.
drive away customers either. But yeah, like otherwise, spicy things are like really, yeah, it's interesting.
Okay. Fair enough. Let's come to a little bit to the business part, right? I want to understand a little bit on the numbers. If you can break it up for me, you don't need to say any exact numbers, right? Yeah. What is the kind of a MRP? How do you guys sell it? Like, what's your distribution strategy? And what is your cost of goods? Like, what is your production cost, etc.? How much do you make at a margin level? If you can help me understand that.
Sure. So I think every category is a little different, but I can
Yeah,
speak about
maybe.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
whichever of your product SKU or
yeah.
product category is the highest selling, or which is your hero product,
Sure.
you can just
Yeah.
talk about that.
Okay. So hero products will be our hot sauces. That's still where the lion's share of our sales are coming from. We have a pantry range where we're doing chili oil, which is doing really well right now. It's the quickest growing product for us at the
Chili
moment.
oil.
Chili oil. So
Okay.
it's that one's like a table tadka. So it's not very spicy. But yeah, like if you like dal rice, just like a spoon of this and it suddenly completely different from any dal rice you've ever had. And we've made it with like an Indian touch. So typically you'd imagine it would be like a Chinese flavor. We've made like the Indian sort of version of it. But yeah, like back to the margin question and sort of like the breakup. So our product is say 250 rupees. And most margins will range from, so like let's say we're making the product at 20 to 30%, right? Like, and it depends. Sometimes back in the day it was a little bit more. Today it's like a little bit less because of like scale is sort of
So
like given us
20% of
economies
250.
of 250. Say just as a rule of thumb. And then because there's also a few things that fluctuate, like bhaji prices fluctuate, and we're not using filler material, so we use only real vegetables. So sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Like, tomatoes got expensive now. Okay, now you deal with it. Chili prices change also every now and then based on how
Yeah,
the
so little
harvests
bit raw
do.
materials
Yeah,
fluctuation.
and then there's bottles, then there's the seal, and then there's caps. And then if you're delivering the product, you can't ignore things like corrugated boxes or bubble wrap or like tape and things like that. So those are a lot of the hidden costs that people don't think about at the very beginning, but then you discover that you can't send it anywhere without it. So that's something that to keep in mind. But like, let's say that somewhere in that 20 to 30 range, like given
20
say an
to 30
e-commerce
percent of
box.
250. Yeah.
Yeah, so e-commerce box will have a little more proportionately, but if you're putting 24 bottles in like a larger box and you're sending out to a distributor, it'll have a slightly different structure. But margins that retailers and online partners ask for can range from anywhere from 20 to 35%. Usually it's in that 25 to 30% range. But yeah, there's outliers all the time. Sometimes you can negotiate well with people and you get it a little bit less. Sometimes that it's just the price of entry. It's just like
Yeah, you have to do a little bit.
yeah, and to be fair,
You
like
have
I
to make
mean,
it sweet for them.
absolutely, absolutely. And at the time that you're just starting, they don't know who you are. They don't know if your product's going to move or anything. They just be like, well, what's in it for me? And what's in it for me then is X margin structure, right? Like, and um, a word for anyone who's actually going to start their own business in the future is the renegotiation doesn't happen as often as you might like. So if you
एक
started
बार
off
बन
really
गया
high and you
जब.
thought, oh, like, hoga, and then like, kam karenge baad mein, they'll the your counterpart on the other side is just like, ha, bikega, to fir kam karenge. It's just like, that's hard. That's hard to come
Even when
by.
you become big.
I suppose that completely changes thing, and that's relative, right? Like, so if you're like massive, if you're like a Marico ITC and all, I
Yeah, of course.
get
Then you have that
Britannia, you
power.
get to like sort of set certain
Dictate
terms,
terms. Yeah.
yeah. But as long as your brand, like, I mean, at the core of it, like any brand even doing like superbly well is a drop in the ocean compared to what the HULs of the world are doing, right? Like, so I think you know where the real bargaining power is, and some of those folks have like 30, 40, 50,000 boots on the ground, and you're starting modestly with like 4, 8, 12, 20. So I think the idea is you have to use what is the toolbook or the toolbox that I have, like specific to me. I need to play those cards like really well. And why is that relevant on the margin conversations? Because you might choose to do like a discounting strategy, but I would say then the risk is once a customer is used to paying substantially less, they're not going to be dying to pay full price in the future. Like there's
Yeah.
few things that are like that.
Yeah.
But like
It becomes difficult to change his mindset and
yeah,
behavior.
because instead of increasing the value of the product in his life to the value of the product in terms of monetary, exchange, he has reduced what he values it at, and now you're pegged at that value, and then suddenly it's a race to the bottom, and that is just one of the most frustrating parts about
Yeah,
like
you can't
doing,
discount it too
yeah.
much also. I
Because and
mean,
if you don't, your competitor will, and if he doesn't, his competitor will. Like and there's always someone out there willing to out discount you, right? Like, and there's always someone out there who's
it's the
willing.
worst strategy to get into a price war.
100% agreed. 100% agreed. And because you can't win a war when you have like 1,000th the resources of your enemy, right? Like, I mean, so, and
No, so even this is
yeah,
even true in a business like ours, a service business like ours. So I'll give you that example, like what we are talking about pricing. So when we are helping any startup raise funds, right? So we charge a success fee, which is somewhere from 3 to 5% kind of a range. Now what happens is there are certain newcomers or newbies that who want to try to of course make a name and try to get mandates or something like that. They do it at 1.5%.
yeah,
And then they are not the Reliance of the world. They are some newcomers or kind of freelancers who are trying to do something, right? Start on their own. And this has really impacted the way our sector or our business happens or works, right? Investment banking, particularly for startups. I'm not talking for IPOs and large deals and large transactions, M&As and all that. Just small ticket sizes which are up to 8 to 10 crore kind of tickets. I'm talking about that sector. Okay. And what happens is that now when startup founders are coming to us, they are trying to negotiate with us कि अच्छा यार इसने तो ऐसा बोला
he
था.
proposed this,
Yeah, he
why are you
proposed. Why
asking
are
for
you
so
asking?
much? And yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I always try to tell them, you look at the value addition there, you look at the value addition here, you look at, what is his experience, you look at our experience, look at their name, look at our name, and then you can compare, right? If you will go in a likewise comparison, you'll see that range of 3 to 5%. But if you're going to compare with someone who's just started out and who's trying to break the industry by way of a price discounting, that's not going to be good for you. I don't know, for him it might turn out to be good if he does your funding, and it's not going to be good for our ecosystem of investment banking. So you need to take that call, you need to do that research. But that's very true,
And this
because
is true for every industry, and
every
it will
industry.
always be true also.
Yeah,
Because if I've never had a chance to do it before, how do I get a chance is probably by
by giving
giving
a less
a
price.
lower price. Yeah. And and
Absolutely.
and and then later when you earn the right to charge more, you'll also change your rates. But then the next bugger who will come in, it'll be like, ah, like mera time aa gaya. So,
Yeah.
and fair enough. Look, like everyone's got product launch, discount strategies to like get trials done. Some other people just use it as a strategy in general because they think that the customers will not realize what's happening on the discount. But honestly, customers are smart. I don't understand why people still think you can fool a customer. You can fool one, maybe two, three, but you can't fool them
No,
all.
then you are not in the business of product, you are in the business of fooling people.
Yeah, and no, honestly, but like if you and I'm not saying this like I want to say negatively about any specific person, but like let's say you're looking for headphones. Now, almost every one of them online is like marked at 9,000, like MRP 9,000, selling price 2,000. And you're just like, how is that even possible? Like, because if 9,000 was real, you should not be able to afford this, selling it for 2,000, plus running ads and all these other things and making the product.
No, it's a fake.
Yeah, and it's all BS, right? When it's like, I want to show the customer 70% discount so that the customer feels that he's getting a deal and therefore
A
kharidega.
lifetime deal.
Yeah, exactly. Right,
ऐसा
exactly.
deal कभी नहीं आएगा.
And there are literally there's brands that are doing this, right? Like people will mark up on purpose for the sole purpose of like, okay, I want to discount it down there to make people feel like a big discount mil raha hai not. But like, does the customer, you think the customer doesn't know how much is actually going out? Like, I mean, he knows, man. Like, I mean, so like if a Tabasco is 200 and my product is 250, Tabasco will say, okay, I've been in the business for like 130 years. Everyone likes my stuff. Okay, cool. Like maybe that's their whole thing. And I'll just say, yeah, it's cool. But if you want to eat garlic bread for the rest of your life, like, I mean, if you want to eat other things other than that, guess what? Our product's so much better. And then other people will make the argument, oh, but like, but my product is thinner, so you get more, and it's like pika hai, and I'll make the argument, yeah, but you're spending 200 rupees for 60 grams, which is 3 rupees a gram, and here you're spending 250 for 230 grams, which is like 1.1 rupees a gram, and like everyone, like you have
Everyone
to
has a different
compare
story.
apples
Yeah.
to apples, right? Like, and
Yeah,
at the
absolutely.
core of it, the customers to understand like what is the value am I getting out of it? Like how many use cases do I actually love it? Do I enjoy it? And I think more often than not, people get it. Like it's the commodity stuff that you can play this price game on.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can't do it on
absolutely.
differentiated products like besan, or like flour or
उस पे कर
atta or
सकते
like.
हैं.
Honestly, I can't tell when someone has changed the brand of atta in my house. Like I can't tell. I mean, maybe someone else in the house can, but like I can't. So, but what that means is like, but I can tell instantly if someone's changed the chutney, if someone's changed the sauce or whatever it is. Like, so I think the idea is you should know where your business fits in that, that massive range of like, of products, and then play according to that. So, to just like round off sort of that earlier point, like if you're giving 25-30% odd margins, say like to your partners, and then you're paying and then your product cost is about 20-25 odd percent, your GST will range from, I suppose, anywhere 5% to 12% depending on your product category.
So 60% is 60-65 is gone.
And now you have to decide, do I give customer discounts? So like let's say you decide I will give a 20% discount. So now you're only left with 20%. So if you have a 100 rupee product, you can only spend 20 rupees on marketing, is one way to look at it.
Plus salaries and
But
fixed
then you have
costs.
rent and then salaries, and then, and before you even have the finished goods to sell, you have to pay your supplier and get your raw material. So one of the most underrated, problems in business, it's underrated only to new people. The second you've been in the business for 3 to 6 months, it's not underrated anymore. Everyone gets it. And that's working capital. Like you just have
Inventory.
to understand
Inventory
inventory
and
and
working
working
capital.
capital.
That's
And
the key to this kind
yeah.
of a product
And that
business.
doesn't mean you'll ace it on day one. You may not ace it till year 3, year 5 also. But like the idea of how it works and what are the important elements in it is something that you got to figure out early. Otherwise, you're just in trouble because then you're going to look at paper revenue, but not cash flows. and then you'll actually pay out, and then it's just like I'm paying out early here and I'm collecting late there, and you're just stuck in between.
And your inventory is just stuck up in
Yeah,
your
and then
warehouse. It's not
and
getting
then
sold.
yeah, like you might be like, I'm willing to put my heart and soul and my life into this business, but everyone else in your team wants their salaries on time, right? So you have to get those things right,
Very important.
and when you
Working capital,
don't,
yeah.
you can. It's really important to have a team that trusts you in that one day when you can't, right? Because if they lose, if your own team loses confidence, or like they're not able to get it, or they don't buy into the mission, it's just extra problems
Yeah,
that
no,
you will
of
have
course.
to deal
Then I
with.
mean
So
they're not on the right ship, right? They need to
yeah.
get off the
Yeah.
the ship.
And the
Or,
truth is, people want to be on board. They want to do it. Like, I mean, yes, there are, of course, like, I mean, don't get me wrong. And like, there are those people who are means to an end at work also. And you'll see it on the opposite end in your partners also. Some people are just like, nah, man, that's the thing. Ye hai ya wohi hai. Like, no one cares about your picture or like what your constraints are. And it's just like, this is my business. I don't really give a, give a rat's backside, like, is this a PG-13 show?
yeah, yeah.
No, so yeah, I think the idea is you have to just sort of understand how like at the core of it, product business or not, you're still in the people business. You're working with people internally, you're working with people as your suppliers, you're working people as your partners. Your influencer might be influencers, they might be like your vendors. Like, it does my ads guy really care, or is he just putting something on? Like, little things like this can have a monstrous impact, and it's so underrated. People think कि like Excel पे चलाएंगे
I think कोई भी business होता है, you are in the business of people and in
100%.
the business of media. So I
Absolutely.
think
Yeah,
that is
this I
something.
agree with.
Yeah. So this is, you are into a product business, you are into water, you are into lights, you are into education, you are into whatever, finance, fintech, whatever you are doing, you are in the business of people and media,
Yeah,
because these two are the only holy grail of making a
100%.
successful business.
Attention चाहिए.
Attention. Yeah.
And नहीं है तो फिर why would they buy your product? They don't do. And then there's that classic दिखा तो बिका तो. Then it's not just know about you, you have to be available also. Plus you have to have convinced them along the way. And it's that classic
Yeah. Yeah.
tofu
Yeah.
mofu
Yeah.
bofu
Yeah.
situation,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but yeah. Very
Tell me
much agree.
something, Arjun. How do you decide the pricing of your product? What is the strategy behind deciding the pricing?
Rule of thumb, I would say, is just understand what your cost of goods sold is, and then understand what the margin is for your partners in your business. And then after that, it's really down to how you want to run it. But your starting
Is
point
it
has to
also
be, what are my
understand? Is it
costs?
also understanding your target audience? Because then, if your target audience is into a mass category, which is like like a complete mass, basically, not even affordable mass, like mass, where they are not looking at quality or anything. उनको भाई खाना चाहिए, मतलब product चाहिए at a lower price. Value product at a lower price. Is it that, or is it as an aspirational mass category, which is probably thoda middle class pe, where they're looking at spending, the spending power is starting to increase there. They don't mind spending a little bit on better brand or better quality product. So you
Oh,
have to look at that
and
also.
and alternatives, like what is your replacement value?
Yeah.
So if I look at my replacement value as, say, sriracha or tabasco, we're in the same price range. I'm a little bit cheaper than them. But if I look at my replacement value as, like, say, that Sam's red chili green chili sauce, or like a Wakefield, which is like 30 odd rupees, then it's a completely different evaluation. Then you have to change the product only that you're making. Because if that's the market you're going for, you have to
Yeah.
compete with a 30 rupee price point. And if that's the market you're going for,
Yeah, your ingredients
yeah,
change, your
absolutely.
production quality
And
changes.
then your mentality towards the channels on which the people that buy those products shop on which channels, and what is the game that you have to play in a wholesaler market versus the game that you have to play in direct to consumer. It's completely different. So yeah, there's a million things that go hand in hand when you make this decision, but I think at the core of it, you have to first know,
Your cost of goods.
yeah, and even if it's, you understand that this is the highest it's ever going to be is on day one. Because over time, like, supply shocks not, like, withstanding, you would imagine that, like, as you grow, you'd find better partners, better suppliers,
Yeah, yeah,
cheaper,
absolutely.
whatever,
Your connections will start
economies of
building.
scale
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
something. So this is the it's ever going to be, and then you work your
Your
rest of your
connections
life to
will start
reduce it.
building.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
yes, yes, yes. Absolutely.
And then you also know because ads are going to come more costly over time, and then your product is going to go a little bit down, but your ads will go up always faster than your product. So you kind of want that affinity, you want that like repeat. Is that repeat coming only because you keep shouting and you've got like, some major celebrity, like, like doing like a million things? Or is it a pure product affinity? Right? Like I will get it no matter you give me an ad or not. Like, so for example, like I think this happened to a lot of people, and maybe it's still happening right now, but we're slowly becoming ad blind. Like the second I see an ad, like my brain tunes off. Like I'll either skip the app or I'll change the app I'm on, or if it's on TV, you'll put it on mute and then you look at your phone. If it's on your phone, you put it on mute, you look at the TV, or you'll start talking to someone. Like we're just blind. I can literally watch hours of content and not register a single ad.
So tell me, Arjun, how do you actually, sell? Because there have been so many brands you would have seen, I come across, which are solely dependent on advertisements, performance marketing, and they're running like they're paying so much money to Facebook and Google, मतलब उनको rich कर रहे हैं, and खुद के pockets burn कर रहे हैं. What is, but how do you actually move from that performance marketing to a brand building, to a proper marketing strategy where you can have long term value from customers, where you can build that LTV and reduce your CAC? You've run an agency yourself. I believe now you're also handling marketing of Naagin. How do you do this? How can the transition happen? Because I understand, see, when you are a first 1 year, 1.5 year, you're building, you want that initial traction, और शायद इन्वेस्टर का पैसा भी आया तो यू वांट टू रियली पंप इन भाई करो मार्केटिंग ऐड चलाओ, बट उससे रिजल्ट 90% of the times I have not seen results coming in the manner, in a favorable manner that it should for any startup. How can you transition from ad driven to brand building, uh, for your company?
I think one of the most so first of all, like I think the answer is different for everyone based on how good is your product, how much do people know about you, how is it the type of product that people look for, or is it a want product or is it a need product? And these things change a lot of like how you're set up. So let's say you're an Ayurvedic product, and it's likely that people are looking for to solve certain problems. So maybe if you did Google search, you'd have a lot better results than someone who is giving you a want product like lollipops or something. Like, no one's searching for best lollipops to solve my cravings or something, right? Like, so different approaches, will work for different people. But I think over time, I think you have to figure out, you have to be looking at numbers, because if certain things also stop working, like we had decent CAC at the start of the pandemic because there's nothing else for people to do, right? So people would try and get whatever little experiences they could bring into their life, they were open to it. But once the world sort of opening up again, CAC started going up. So now you have to start playing a slightly different game. Either you embrace it and you say, no, that's still working for me and I'm still doing it. Like in our case, we had to, like, we understood that we needed to expand our portfolio. Because, like, how much hot sauce can you buy? Like, or how much can you eat, rather? That's a better question. Like, how much can you can't eat more than a finite amount. So, but so if I have like, parallel products that people can buy, if I can increase the basket size, then it makes sense for me to start playing a CAC game again. But when as it pertains to branding, I think a lot of it comes down to the most in my personal opinion, I think the most valuable one is word of mouth. Like there is,
Nothing beats it.
yeah, like if I see an ad where someone's just like, oh, this is the best T-shirt in the world, I'd be like, of course you'd say that. You're selling that T-shirt, right? Like I mean, but and if I read an article, I might still be like, okay, cool, like PR se kiya hai. Yeah, but if a friend has come and told me, man, try this out, this is like the best T-shirt I've ever worn, be like, okay, like maybe I will try it out, like, like whenever I'm doing it. So I do think that that organic bit has the most value. And if you stop looking at it as last click attribution, like did 100 rupees of ads give me 200 rupees in sales, and then not looking at organic, it could be that your 100 rupees of ads that gave you 400 rupees of sales, it's just the ad gave you 200 and 200 came organic. So overall, it's 1:4 ratio as opposed to 1:2. So sometimes you have to also understand the larger picture. Like when we do social media ads, our marketplace sales also go up. So that means, and it looks like my social media stats aren't as good, but suddenly my marketplace stats start looking better. So the way
You have to
we've
look at it
understood it is
holistically.
exactly. So in some cases you might want to do that. In other cases, as you get more refined or you have more products, you don't want to do that, and you just say everyone is benefiting from all our activities. I want to look at only platform to platform, and that's also, there's a lot of merit to that. In our case, early on, we had to make that call that says, just look at it more holistically and understand what's happening because
Yeah, I think a blended CAC.
yeah, exactly right. Exactly. Because I've seen again, like how I do, my purchases. I'll see an ad and be like, oh, that's really interesting. And I'll go straight to Amazon or like, is it there? And then I'll buy it there for no other reason other than I don't want to enter my address again. Right? And that's such a ridiculous way to shop. And I understand, I'm a marketer's nightmare as a customer, but at the same time, like,
But that happens.
but
I think it is very
it's a
organic. It
very
is a
natural
human
thing.
psychology.
Yeah, so people want 15-minute delivery. They will first check on QCOM है कि नहीं. नहीं है तो फिर okay एक दिन में चलो Amazon के मैं ठहर सकता हूँ. Which is what a tragedy, right? Like I mean, you have to wait one day for it. But sometimes it's about
But
what product we talk
yeah,
about.
and I also, so for me also as a customer, I'll also see the price.
Yeah.
So if I'm getting Amazon, if I'm getting website, if I'm getting Flipkart,
Yeah.
I'll see, who's offering me even $20 cheaper. I don't mind doing from there. Because I know that, okay, for me, I don't mind putting my address again. That's okay.
Yeah.
But I want that 20,
But
25
at this
bucks
point
cheaper.
in time, you've got them all saved on all the
Yeah.
platforms. So at this point,
So
you just check.
e-commerce तो है,
It's
but
all,
शायद वो
yeah.
website वाला I have not yet saved. It is a new
Exactly.
website for me.
Exactly.
But it might be a new brand, right? But if Flipkart is giving me cheaper, and which has happened.
Yeah.
So Flipkart, I typically buy all my books from Amazon.
Yeah.
But one fine day, I don't know what happened. I just went on Flipkart, searched for that book. It was freaking $60 cheaper.
And then that was it.
That
After
was
that,
it.
you're
Now I'm purchasing
going
from
there,
Flipkart.
yeah.
Now I compare. It's not
Okay.
that I'll just buy from Flipkart,
Yeah,
but I'll
yeah.
compare now smartly because before I was not.
I think
Like, yeah, Amazon है,
the
ले लेते
the
हैं.
amazing thing that I'm taking out of this is the big winner is always the customer.
Yeah, it's
Brands
the
will
customer.
fight, like, platforms will nicholo the brands. Brands will try and get the platform to do more for them, but the
Absolutely.
person who wins every single
the
time is
customer.
the customer.
Yeah.
There is only one problem that I see that's there, and I'll speak for myself. Doom scrolling is becoming way too much of a problem in life for people. Endless social media scrolls, endless Swiggy, Zomato scrolls. कि कहाँ से order करें आज? Like and how much do you really need choice? Like my personal opinion, and again, I'm happy to be completely blasted by anyone who feels other than that, otherwise. But I actually don't think people want unlimited choice. I think people want more confidence in the choices that they have, right? Like, and I'll say this as a joke, but you don't need 7 girlfriends. Like you can do, but one good one is perfectly fine, right? You don't need to be having 7 juggling so many like how many different honeys do you need? How many different like maple syrups do you need? How many different breads do you need? Like you just need the one and you need to love it. That's it. At the core of it, that's it. So when there's 18 million people doing the exact same thing, how do you stand out? That's probably where advertising comes in. That's where your SEO game comes in, your PR game comes in, word of mouth comes in, and even the art of writing a product listing comes in, and that's where the marketers sort of
I
make
think
their
that is where also your packaging comes in.
absolutely.
And I think very interesting packaging that you have.
Yeah,
If
thank
you would
you.
want to just show that, I think that would be lovely. You can show it to the camera also.
This one?
That
Like
one.
that. All right.
So I think this is a very interesting one.
Yeah.
I think which is the booth one,
Yeah,
right?
the smoky booth. Yeah.
The spicy hot sauce. So this is, this is very new age, very funky, and it brings that vibe basically कि हाँ ये भाई spicy है, ये hot sauce है, with the name also smoky booth. So it's a very interesting thing. I think this adds a lot to the marketing game that you were talking about. Is that right?
For sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, like we put a few things like not everyone will value these things, but we did. So, for example, like it's a shiny sort of label. So, in a retail store, it'll sort of catch the light a little bit differently at different angles, so it sort of pops a little bit more. Um, for example, like I mean, we I think we were talking earlier about like how important I think it is for Indian chilies to get their due. So we thought it was really important to mention what the chili was. And then we thought, but how are people going to know how spicy it is? Because we're going to do different levels of spice. So like a lot of people will do the same level of spice, just different flavors. But we wanted to give different flavors and different levels of spice. So we came up with the heat meter at the bottom. Now it it's arbitrary to people, but for each individual person you'll understand the scale. So like I mean what you believe is an 8 on 10 might be different from what I believe, but 8 on 10 still means pretty spicy, right? Like near the top of the
Yeah,
thing. So
there's no
yeah.
debate there
So
then.
it sort of works out. But the birds, I think, is something that we're most excited about in general. Or at least I am, like at least from a branding sense. So this might bore a couple of people, but might like bring joy to a couple of people. Um, so the way chilies sort of naturally evolved over time through evolution was just like, how do chilies propagate themselves? If it's too spicy, then they're not going to move far, and plants anyways don't move. So how is that going to happen? So birds actually don't have something called capsaicin receptors. So capsaicin is what makes you feel spice, right? Humans have it. That's why you taste something, you're like, oh my god, I'm either definitely going to do it or I'll never do it again.
Okay.
Birds don't have that at all. So you'll see a lot of birds eating chilies. And people grow up being like, oh, parrots love chilies. The parrots don't love, maybe they love the taste, but they sure is, they're not tasting, and there's no chili aspect to it to them. Like they don't feel the pain receptor there. So birds not having pain receptors or capsaicin receptors would eat the chilies and then fly to another place and then poop, and then the seeds would germinate over there. And then we're just like, okay, cool, that's such an interesting, little fact. So we said, let's try and put birds here that are from the region of where the chilies are from and that actually eat the chilies. So when people ask us, be like, your name is Naagin, why do you have a bird on the label? That's why. That's like a little weird, nerdy deep cut for why we're doing this. And then the other products sort of just highlight
No, but it's very
key
interesting.
ingredients
It's
and stuff
very
like that.
it's very funky, colorful, interesting, and yeah, I think kudos to whoever has thought
I
about
still
this
love that
packaging.
snake though, back in the day. That snake was epic. One day,
you,
one day it will see the light of
you
day.
might have that snake, or you might have the Nagin actress, the TV actress, or something.
Something wild will be coming your way soon at some point in
Yeah,
time in the
that
near
would again
future.
be interesting because something or the other, it really spices up for the audience, who your target audience is. It should, at the end of the day, spice them up so that they purchase it. Maybe out of intrigue, they purchase. And after that, of course, the quality of the product will take over. But that first purchase, if it happens with a Nagin, then why not?
Yeah, we always had this thing that I think that people sometimes, to be fair, I get it. I understand why. Like making safe choices is probably good as a risk mitigation tactic, but do you really need to put tomatoes on a tomato ketchup? I think people figured out कि tomatoes होंगे इसमें. So we looked at it as, okay, it's a hot sauce, it's a chili sauce, but does that mean I just have to like put 4,000 chilies all over it? Like maybe you can trust that the customer's smart, trust that they understand something a little bit more, and they do. So like I think when you start speaking their language a little bit more, sometimes you'll get galis and be like, man, you could have just made this easier by doing that. And fair enough, like, but every now and then you'll make someone like really happy and they'll be like, oh, you put some personality into it. I kind of see what you're doing over there. It's exciting. It made me kind of want to pick it up. And I think at the core of it, that's part of, as you said,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
of course.
it's sort of dressing for the role, right? Like, I mean, so yeah.
Okay. I want to know about the investment part, right? So first question is, of course, how much have you raised till now? And in raising or while raising, what have been your challenges of dealing with investors, of dealing with new documents, of dealing with, I know because we've spoken that, but I want to try to get it on
Yeah.
record also,
Oh my God, I hope we have a
because
few
this
hours.
is, we don't have a few, but Would love to know, what have been your learnings out of these investor meetups or the fundraisings that you have done?
So we've raised about 1.5 million till this point in time, and more coming up surely in the future. But I think what we've learned is that there's no one answer, that there's no one size fits all when it comes to investors. Different investors have different theses, I think is the right way to say it. But and they also have different mandates, they have different requirements, and I think they're also at the core of it, how good are your options have a big part to play in how an investor feels about something. And what I mean by that is, like, if you're a VC that's getting 8,000 applications and you see 100x potential here and 8x potential here, that doesn't mean the 8x business is bad. It just means that you have the
Relatively,
100x
yeah,
option.
relative.
So
For him, it's relative.
exactly, because they have a finite fund size, so they might choose to go with where they find. Sometimes they might pick where they feel that they have higher chance of success. Sometimes they'll probably pick where they have higher upside. More often than not, you would imagine that they'd pick where they have higher upside. So,
Absolutely. This is a
um,
very valid point
yeah,
that
and
you
so
said.
that's like the VCs tend to kind of have. I mean, I'm not painting everyone with the same brush, but they tend to have that kind of element to it. Family offices, by and large, I would say, have a different viewpoint. Like, because now this is not just I need to make money for my LP. It's like I'm doing it for me and I'm doing it for us and I'm allowed to have my own thesis. Right? So some family offices will only, and just like VCs, I suppose they'll only do consumer. Because why bet on AI when I don't understand AI? I understand consumer. We've done consumer, so I'll bet on consumer. And fair enough. And they tend to be a little more patient, mostly because they are not looking to be on a fund life cycle thing, where the VCs will be very honest with you and tell you, look, मेरे को निकलने का है 5 साल में, मेरे को पैसा बनाने का है. And fair enough, like transparency is super important. So, but family offices may not need to, live
Churn
up to
that,
that
yeah.
kind of like timeline.
Yeah, they're
So,
not looking at that.
yeah,
That's not their model. Huh?
so they may have a slightly different viewpoint in how they approach it. They might get different types of businesses pitching to them. They might have different time horizons. They might have a different risk appetite. So it's a completely different ballgame when you're talking to.
What has been your challenges in this?
I think the first mistake that we made is probably not meeting enough people, which is just the most basic one. But I
Not
think it's,
networking well, or
yeah,
not
I
not
wouldn't say
being
not,
not being out there.
or not putting yourself out there. Yeah, I think we looked at it. A lot of it came down to, hey, so we have these investors, and who do you know, and who do you know, and who do you know, and I mean, to be fair, that's the first step, right? Like, I mean, it's low hanging fruit, and you already got these investors, and why not do it that way? But that does not mean that you shouldn't push the boat out. And like when you read articles of like horror stories and people tell you like, oh man, I spoke to 200 VCs and I got rejected 198 times in a row, and then finally these last two came in, and be like, yeah,
That
that's
happens.
very normal. For how many people have like runaway success? Like there's a few only, and those guys do become like the darlings and the unicorns and all this others. But statistically speaking, everyone can't be a winner. Like someone else has to come second, third, fourth, fifth. So I think the idea is there's different levels to it, and different folks out there in the market at different levels also. So you'll find certain people at a really big sort of ticket size, you'll find other people at like a smaller ticket size. And I think the idea is, but you have to meet everyone. Like sometimes we've had interest from people that I would never have imagined, just absolutely never have
For
imagined.
example,
um like you do your research on a fund, and you'll see like sector agnostic fund hai, and you look at their past investment and it's tech, and you're just like, but they did say sector agnostic, so it's probably not my first choice of person to reach out to. Let me reach out to the consumer people, and then you reach out to them last.
so yeah, I mean, you need to start networking 6 to 9 months prior. Probably even 9 months. I would not even say 6 months. 9 to 10 months prior, you need to start networking, and hence you need to have a very close watch on your bank accounts, on your outgoes, payments that are happening, etc. Because I come from a finance field, being a CA, I can really vouch for this fact that most of the founders, being non-financial field, coming from non-finance field, Very few you would see a CA or someone like that. Most of them are engineers, product people, marketeers, etc. You know, they underestimate this finance, the cash flow challenges or cash flow management. You know, and they go into raise funds at the last moment. You know, and that is one thing which backfires many a time because that time you are in a situation like this. De do. 9 months prior, you are in the situation like this, boss. I'm just talking to chill. I'm just coming to chill with you. I'm coming to talk to you as a friend. Let's be friends. We don't know where the relationship can go.
And
Right?
also, it's
You're not
it's
dating or you're just scouting
it's the
for a
perfect
date.
perfect analogy. That's the
But you're
perfect
not,
analogy.
there's no relationship yet. Yeah? Let's just explore options. Let's talk to people.
And what are your options when you have limited to no runway, right? Like, so the idea is sort of like
Yeah,
you have
you're
to,
doing like this.
you're going to, correct, you're going to end up taking deals maybe which are not the best they could have been perhaps had you had more time, or you'll go ahead with like terms or and you'll make business decisions also in like,
Which will be a little wrong, which will be
yeah, which
alright.
is
Yeah.
like defensive decisions at a time when you didn't maybe need to make it if you had planned it a little bit better, whatever. And look, there's a million reasons why sometimes you should wait also here and there, but here and there still means 8
9 months.
months. Like
It cannot
it
happen
still
at
doesn't mean
first.
like 9 to 3 or 9 to 2
Absolutely.
or something like that. So like you're waiting for something to come together or something, and then that puts you in a better place to kind of like reach out. And fair enough, like there is a small tactical element to it, I'm sure, or a timing element to it as well. Last 2 3 years has had a really weird situation where there was this whole quote unquote sort of funding winter going on. So there's a lot of
You need to
apprehension.
plan in advance. Yeah.
Yeah, and because you can't control the market. You can control yourself and you can control what you're doing, but you can't control what the mood is like out there. And I know this is like a unhelpful thing to share, but like the people who are doing well will always have options, and the people who are doing badly will always struggle to have that level of options. And the people in the middle, there's a little bit of a, can I give it like a little injection here and like pump it up and go in the right place, or should
Yeah,
I?
they have to be a little smart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because like we had this. So someone actually asked me this question the other day, and we were just sort of debating because even I was in that position myself. It's like, say you've got 6 months to go and you've got a X amount of money left. Like, do I make it a 4 month runway and start pumping up my sales because I can take a higher sales to someone and like make a better pitch to them? Or do I slow it all down because I don't know how long this fundraiser is going to take, and then maybe my sales dip a little, but I'm now good for 8 months. And I was just like, I have no idea how to respond to that because both
Every
could be
business is
right. Yeah,
different.
like
Yeah.
both could be
It
right.
is the founder's vision. See, at the end of the day, what he wants to do, but whatever he wants to do, wherever he wants to take the business, he wants to scale his
You have
ad,
to
and
own it and you have to
you have to own it,
understand what
understand
are
it.
the repercussions of
Yeah.
the choice I am making.
Yeah.
Because if I pick the 4 month choice, now I have to rush to investors also. And if I pick the 8 month choice, I can't dawdle to the point where
Still, you have
people are
to
just,
meet investors,
still
make them your
the
friends,
game doesn't change.
tell
It's just
them
that
your story, keep
100%.
continuously tell them your
Yeah.
story, right? I think that is the game that you have to continuously play. Yeah. Of course, you have Abhishek Bachchan as the brand ambassador. He's also the investor, if I'm not wrong. Or
Investor, not a
investor.
brand
He's
ambassador.
an
Yeah.
investor.
Yeah.
Sorry, not a brand ambassador. My bad.
Yeah.
But hopefully becomes if he's going to play. You can share this with him and
Never seen him. Never seen him.
share this clip more
Yeah. Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, so he's the investor, and I want to understand how did you crack this deal? From how did you connect with him? How did he find conviction in you guys as founders in the brand in the product?
So, the way, I mean, so he's obviously like got a really good eye for things in the market. Like, we're not the first person that he's invested in prior to this. Like, I think he's got a very specific,
He's got a business
very
acumen.
savvy people. Like, so and I have no doubt that they get a million opportunities coming their way just because being the folks that they are, and being not just public facing but also known for being smart and savvy in general. So I think like we lucked out a little bit in that sense that we knew a couple of folks in his network who just happened to take it over to him. And there is a level of serendipitousness in this. And I think he just saw something in it, and was both willing and able to kind of get involved in that sense. And I think he saw what we were trying to do, and I think he sort of identified with it in a way, and just be like, okay, cool, like I get it. It's not just like they're off on their own trip. Like there's a few things I kind of see what the vision is here. And like and I think what I love about the way it sort of happened is super clear and super transparent about, like, okay, this is what we're looking for, and these are the things that I'm like not going to want to like fight people on. It is just what it is. And there's other things which are like, cool, like we can make it friendly for you to be able to grow without having feeling like you have like a lot of strings holding you back or something like that. So I think most of our investors have been really awesome. Like, and he's definitely in that group of, they've been super approachable, super friendly, very classy in the way, communication happens also. Like, I mean, I was telling you about like handwritten notes earlier. I remember like the first time we sent something over to him, and literally within like, a few hours, like we got like this, keep doing what you're doing kind of like, sort of positive message, and like a handwritten note, little signature. And you could see what it meant to the team, right? Like, I mean, of course, to us as well. And, I think it says a lot about someone that they take, you don't need to do it. You don't need to do it. We had a discussion. We said we were going to send something. Ho gaya. Like, what is the need to come and be like,
Yeah,
okay, yeah,
it was
thank you.
not a formality.
Who
It
said
was
that?
a very good
Yeah,
gesture.
yeah. It's just, and it's simple things like, it's just thank you.
Yeah,
Like,
one sentence that, but
and it's, when you see this, you're just like, oh man, maybe even I can do a whole lot better in my personal life, right? Like, I mean, mera kya jata hai to like, say something simple that actually shows appreciation for something someone else has done. And like, and it means so much more to us and the team than it did to him, right? Like, I would assume. And it just says so much about people, right? That you're happy to do it and you don't even think about it. And on our end, it like means so much. And the team was just like, oh my God, I'm going to take a photo of this. Like, can I take this home? I'm keeping this note. It's like, naam likha hai to autograph hi hai, basically. Like, and I was just like, that's so funny, like, I mean, um, but I love that. Like, I love that people cared that it happened. I love that he cared that it happened. And it's just nice. Like, all in all, I'd say just like very, very easy people to talk to, very easy people to work with, like, and very clear. And I don't think you can ask for more from any partner, let alone investors, is transparency. You don't have to love everything. Like, this is more of a comment for, like, say, people who are more involved, like, say, a VC, for example. You don't have to love every word that they're going to tell you, but you have to appreciate kahan se aa raha hai. And there must be merit in it, right? Like
हाँ
in the
कुछ
in,
तो वो लोग सोच रहे
yeah,
होंगे.
because they are privy to 8,000 more conversations of the type that you are having with them, and just they have a worldview that's very different from yours. Like, yes, they have not sold a bottle of sauce themselves, but
They have
they've
a
seen a
perspective.
hundred other people who have done similar
Yeah,
things, and a lot of,
they have a
yeah, and a
perspective.
lot of principles are the same. So you can't discount, those perspectives. Like, and it's I think the way to do it is just take all the advice you're getting, take all the input you're getting, and at the end of the day, just make a better and more informed decision on your end. Is what you can do.
Any particular business advice that Abhishek Bachchan has given you would like to share?
Not so much. Like, I mean, I don't think he's
Does
been.
he get involved into any advice? I'm not saying, of course,
I
day
mean,
to day,
he's
but
definitely, like, I mean, some of the lessons we can definitely learn is just like focusing on one or two things and doing those right, as opposed to sprinkling little bits and pieces in 4,000 places, stretching yourself too thin, and then, bombing everything, as opposed to doing a few things. I think those principles are definitely intact, but, you know, you'll get little nuggets from all kinds of folks, and sometimes it's just perspective. Like, they've seen a different version of life, or they've had different experiences, and they'll see you, and like they'll see that you're like freaking out about something, and they're just laughing. I'm just like, why are you laughing at my misery, right? Like, and he's just like, no, no, no. It's just like you're just paying the tuition right now. So Vikram is one of our Vikram Chacha is one of our investors at 8i Ventures, and I remember the first time he told this to us, and I was just like, that is what? What does that even mean? And he's just like, look, you can't know everything on day one. Some things you have to just figure out by doing, and you're going to get a few of them wrong. And yes, it cost you, but it cost you so much. Had you not done this, had you not tried to find out, you just went and dove straight into it, you'd have lost so much more money on it. So just when these moments come, the teaching moments are coming 100 times a year. You just make sure that you learn the lesson, and you paid the tuition. Now you learn the lesson, and now you move on in life. And it's that those choice of words, pay the tuition. Like I just found that like hilarious, but like it's sort of instructive of so many things. I think the idea is like try little pilots, get it wrong small, and then like instead of just going all out on a whim or like a feeling, and then finding out like like I think I feel is so dangerous because it's where the magic happens, but that's also where death happens. But like if you can see in the data something, I think you should base your feelings after looking at the facts, and
Yeah, I
then
think data
take a
matters, but
call.
data matters a lot. Statistics matter a lot.
For
But
sure.
I think then you have to go with your gut to,
For sure.
back. I mean,
I think,
the
and
data
maybe
and the stats back your gut
you can
feeling.
confirm this for me also. It's like as you go on and as the years go by, you find yourself saying way more often, "Damn, I should have just trusted myself. Damn, I should have just trusted myself," because you've started figuring out how to see things better than you did, like when you
Yeah,
were
yeah, yeah,
younger or whatever.
absolutely. Your instincts
And
become stronger.
exactly.
Your
So I
gut
think you
becomes
do need to trust your feelings and your gut a little bit, but it can't just be I
out of
felt.
the blue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It can't just be on a whim. It has to be rooted in something. And we
Sometimes I go on a whim.
yeah.
I mean, I sometimes
We all need to. I think
sometimes
everyone
I
needs to
don't
because
have that patience as an entrepreneur sometimes to look at the data, the statistics, and I'm like, okay, man, I wish to do this. So similarly with this podcast, right? I mean, it was advised to me not to go for it. I mean, it's like, क्या है ये तो
बहुत लोग कर रहे
हाँ,
होंगे and
मतलब
like
लोग कर रहे हैं चलो ठीक है मेरे if I look from an investment banking or a VC fund perspective, there is just one VC fund who does a podcast, right? There are no major other one who does. I think it's Neon VC or Neon Cap, if I'm not wrong. I might be wrong, but someone. So there in investment banking, there is no one who does that, right? Then there are of course very big players like Ankur Warikoo and all who probably talk about finance, business, but they are very big. I'm not in their category. Maybe one day I will, but not.
आज नहीं
not
कल नहीं
हाँ,
परसों
तो but I'm like यार you know I mean people were like this is gonna it's not going to lead you to business, it's not going to get you
and not with
new
that attitude.
mandates. Yeah, no, it's not going to get you new
Yeah.
mandates, it's not going to get you new VCs, it's not going to get you new startups. It's difficult because YouTube ka you don't have that strong a base on YouTube right now, right, where it's going to be distributed primarily. I'm like, but still, I mean, it's something which is interesting. You get to meet new people, you get to learn their stories. You get to spread that message to the world by way of your distribution, whatever you have on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Instagram. You get to make connections. I don't know what it will lead to, how it will lead to business or no. It might not be immediate gains for me today, which I understand, which it won't be. But I'm like, it is something, and I didn't have any statistics to
But I think
back
everything has
तो
value.
चला गया मतलब it's okay, we'll do season 1, we'll do season 2,
And if
and
you're not loving it later, you can
yeah,
always take a different call, right?
you
Like
can always take it's a tuition.
yeah.
If it fails,
That's
it's a
the
tuition.
and but the tuition was like having some fun and having some good
Yeah, you made
conversations.
some
That's
good
hardly the
connections.
worst thing in the
You,
world,
you,
right? Like
your network is your
yeah.
net worth. You made
Yeah.
some good connections. I
You know,
can, yeah.
it's when you've got co-founders, like you'll have this moment where it's just like one or two people are like really into it, and then one person's just like, nah, man, I'm really not into it. And then it's just like or one person's really into it, and the other two are like, sort of on the fence. And then I think one of those things that we've got like so we've done like a little tiebreaker system internally. So like we're glad we're three people. It makes it easy to have those moments. But also you'll have like situations where someone's just like, look, I know you're not going to be into this, but honestly, this time I'd like to not care. I am so sure this is going to work out.
It's so difficult
Please
in a
back me on this because I am that sure. And if it doesn't, it's on me. And like, and when you hear that, the second I hear that, even if I'm not into it, I become into it because no one is so sure about something unless there's something really
Driving from
to it.
driving
Yeah.
from within.
Yeah, yeah. Even if
That no data
even
or
if we can't
statistics.
articulate it at that moment, there's something deeper going on, and you have to. I know there's something there. I've seen that look in the eye. I've seen that look on the face. I'm just like, you know what? Like, I'm happy to trust if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. We're all in this together, kind of thing. But like, if it works out, amazing. Like, that's why I want to go with it. Like, and I think you gotta have that kind of
Yeah, you gotta
relationship
have
with
that kind
people
of
also.
attitude, that kind of relationship, that kind of
And
trust.
every now and then on the reverse side, also sometimes you're gonna hear a no, absolutely not. And you're like, are you kidding me, man? Like,
And
I'm
then
so sure this is
sometimes they're
it.
right also.
And sometimes they're right also, and you're just like, whoo, like, dodged a
Good,
bullet. And it
good it
happens
did.
all the time,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I think it's
um,
very
so I think it's important for people to keep like the whole movie in mind rather than look at one photograph and be like, that's what happened. So yeah, like, I mean, some you win some, you lose some,
all right. Yeah,
and
fair.
yeah,
Okay, we'll move to the last bit, which
sure.
is the rapid fire round, right?
Oh wow, okay.
So be rapid, be quick. First one, top learning in your entrepreneurial journey.
Don't take anything for granted. Nothing works the way you're supposed to. If anything, you should make a choice on Murphy's Law and just imagine that everything is that can go wrong will go wrong. Expect the worst, hope for the best, and you'll probably not be disappointed while having your bases covered.
Wow, those are, I think, 10 to 12 in one sentence. Okay, second question. One tip to crack an investor meeting.
You need to buy your own story. Like, you have to be authentically yourself. There's nothing more unnerving to the eye than watching someone not comfortable in their own skin. And I think you can do that in different ways. Some people need to believe in the vision themselves. Some people need to believe in the numbers. Some people need to believe in, what, like, something, and the mission itself. But I think it's really important that you believe
You are
what you
convinced.
believe. And because if you are not, how can you convince someone else to join you?
Correct. Third one, your favorite competitor brand.
My favorite competitive brand. Oh my God.
As a customer.
As a
Not.
no, fair, fair, fair. I also think people are in an open relationship with their hot sauces. It's not like एक ही जन के साथ जा सकते. So, I've actually heard epic things about Secret Aardvark in the US, but I've never tried it. But I have tried Truff. That was really awesome. It really was good. It's a little similar to our original and with a truffles hint to it.
Okay.
But that was good. That was good hot sauce.
All right. Wonderful. Last question before we wrap up. What is your vision for Naagin Sauce for the next 3 to 5 years?
Putting Indian hot sauce on the world map. If Cholula is representative of Mexican food, if Mercedes is supposed to be representative of German engineering or automobile making or something, I'd love for Naagin to be representative of unique and spicy Indian flavors worldwide. And I hope people embrace that here, obviously, more and more because it is really quite fantastic. Obviously, I'm biased, I would say that, but it is quite fantastic. But I really hope that Indian cuisine becomes more popular worldwide, and not just like how sometimes you'd go eat Chinese food, but it took a while for us to start buying soy sauce at home. And I think that's sort of happening with Indian cuisine as well. Like, on a worldwide basis, sort of like people will go for Indian food, but why not have Indian flavors just part of your pantry all the time? Like, I don't think we're Chinese because we have noodles. Like, it's just part of what we're doing now. So, and I hope that transition happens for all types of Indian food and Indian flavors. The world really doesn't know what it's missing sometimes. Like, Indian food is just unreal. It's so good.
True.
Yeah.
True. Uh, Great. I think such an enriching session. A lot to learn about Indian food, about the Indian sauce market, hot sauce market. A lot of nuances and a lot of understanding about marketing, how today's brands are also operating or how they should. From this conversation is what I could pick up. Lovely to have you on Level Up, Arjun. It was a pleasure. Thanks for making it today.
Of course.
And
My pleasure.
yeah, I think looking forward to Naagin Indian hot sauce, growing leaps and bounds from what you
Thank
are
you
doing
very
today.
much. आपके मुंह
So,
में घी शक्कर and hot sauce.
and hot
Like,
sauce.
yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.